which NFL teams are making the playoffs, and who's staying home. It's Who's In, Who's Out on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's football station.
All right, Mike and John live at the Golden Nugget here in Atlantic City. Every Tuesday, the Golden Gridiron. Get your picks in, as many people are at the kiosks right now. We just had a gentleman walk up to us, said he comes in every day of the week, plays because he heard us. He said he was 14-1 last week, and that wasn't good enough, John. You got to be really good.
Yeah, you had a one-loss week.
Not good enough.
To win. No, you got to be perfect, and the way to be perfect is to play every day.
That's right. You get the more opportunities to win, more chances for $5,000 each week. Make sure you fill out your picks. All right, who's in, who's out? We do it every week at this time. These are the 12 teams that John and I think will make the NFL playoffs. A couple of changes in the NFC side of things. I think I have the same AFC side, but let's see if we got some changes here. All right, in the AFC, looks like a Patriots runaway in the East.
Yeah, the Patriots, obviously, Tom Brady, as I said, on a pace to throw for 5,500 yards. Hasn't thrown a pick yet. I think it's pretty safe to say the AFC East, as it usually is basically their birthright.
The rite of passage, the New England Patriots. By the way, they have outscored their opponents by 73 points this year. Unbelievable. All right, in the North, Cincinnati really showed us something coming down from 17 back. I still like Cincinnati. Haven't changed on that all year.
No, you can't. Signature win, too, for that team. Even though the Seahawks weren't what they once were, they still have the big reputation. One of the biggest comebacks in Bengals history. 5-0 for the first time since 1988, last time they made the Super Bowl.
I remember that Super Bowl. Lost to the Niners. In the South, I think this winning streak that the Colts have been going on, I think it just broke the record of the 72-73 Dolphins of in-division wins. They haven't been impressive. In fact, John, they're outscored this year by 14 points. They've actually been outscored by their opponents, yet they're in first place in the South. They got to win with Hasselbeck. They're going to get luck back. I just can't switch off Indianapolis. Nobody else has a pulse in that division.
It's an awful division. It has been for that way. There's a reason the Colts are basically they dominate in that division. They're a 500 team out of it, and it's going to continue that way. But they're going to win the AFC South.
All right, in the West, Denver's undefeated. I think of all the undefeated teams, they might be the flimsiest of them all. But at 5-0, I think Denver has defense, and the other teams in that division have too many flaws. Kansas City loses Charles. You saw the limitations of San Diego last night, and I just can't buy Oakland yet. So by default, with defense, I'll go Denver.
Yeah, I thought Kansas City was going to be a good team this year, and they had a tough early schedule. But now that they've lost Jamal Charles and they lose a home game to the Bears in the fashion they did, they're dead and buried. It's Broncos all the way.
All right, that's who's in, who's out. Division winners in the AFC, the wild cards, John. Last week I went Pittsburgh and the Jets. I think I'm staying that way. I go Pittsburgh and the Jets. That was a big win for Pittsburgh last night, so they take a step towards the wild card there. And the Jets are the only other team. Can you believe this, John? Them, Pittsburgh, and the Bills are the only teams in the AFC that have 3 wins. Everybody else is below.
Yeah, and I'm also sticking with the Jets and the Steelers. I thought that game between San Diego and Pittsburgh, that would have shifted my last wild card, and the Steelers got it done on the walk-off Wildcat. So the Steelers stay in it for now.
The walk-off Wildcat. I like it.
It's, the Jets, by the way, that is going to look like a better win in a number of weeks for the Eagles, because that's a 3-1 football team, and if you look at their point differential,
on the road too,
95-55. So they've been winning by significant margins. So the Jets are legit.
All right, let's go to the NFC. In the West, for the most part, I've stuck with Arizona all season long. I know they had that tough loss. They're outscoring their opponents, John, by 100 points this year. Now, not the best schedule in the NFL, but they are dominating every opponent that they play. They did it again this week, so I like Arizona to win the West.
Yeah, they had the one outlier game against the Rams, but the Rams tend to play up to their competition, and they have a very good defense. As long as Carson Palmer's upright, for 16 games. The Cardinals are winning that division because the Seahawks have taken a step back.
She read our mind.
I told her.
Ah, man, I was giving her all the credit.
Thanks, BG.
You just ripped her.
Thanks, BT.
BG, thanks, man. That was well thought out. All right, let's go to the South, where this one has kind of been the difference we've had all year long. I'm sticking with Carolina. They, to me, just a better defensive team than Atlanta is, and that's kind of the way that I, judge teams based on defense more than offense.
Yeah, and that makes more sense to me in January if you're playing an outdoor playoff game. The Falcons are going to continue to play their home games in the Georgia Dome. Just a really good team. Much better offensive line, as I mentioned, than expected. And for years, I've loved Matt Ryan. And I think he's going to continue to play at a high level. There's going to be 2 playoff teams in the South, but the Falcons are going to win the division.
By the way, Carolina, big game this week against Seattle. So that should really show us a little bit more about who Carolina really is. All right, in the North, it's a Packer runaway. It doesn't look like anybody is even going to be close in the South.
Yeah.
In the North, excuse me.
We were talking about Notre Dame playing Temple on Halloween. I think the Packers will wrap up the NFC North by Halloween.
They could. I mean, they quite frankly could be 7-0 by that point, and I think that's a pretty good indication of a runaway. All right, the East has been changing from week to week. We've had Dallas, we've had New York. I don't know that either one of us have had Philly or Washington in there, but it seems like it has been a seesaw battle in the East. John, where are you going?
I'm going with your Philadelphia Eagles. This is such a bad division. I don't like the New York Giants as a football team. I picked them the last 2 weeks. I've been looking for an excuse to stop picking them. I got it with the 519 yards of total offense. By this time next week, we'll be talking about the first place Philadelphia Eagles.
I have made the switch as well. I'm going Sammy B and the Bradford S, these Philadelphia Eagles.
That's not the reason I'm doing it, but I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles.
I kind of, obviously they're playing at home Monday night this week. I think the offense looked like it's in better shape. Last year in Week 6, if you remember, same exact Week 6, they played the Giants. They beat them 27-0. They had 8 sacks in that game. They wore the all black. They're going to do it again this week. Not that has anything to do with anything, but Week 6, prime time, I think they beat the Giants this week. Just to give you a little early thought of where I'm at. But I think you're right. I think that that offense last week, you're not going to get 519 yards. But even if you cut that in half, you're still in pretty good shape from where they were before. And I think right now, John, I think they have the best defense in the division.
Yeah, they do, and that's probably the most surprising thing. Coming into the season, we thought that would be the weakness of this team. It's been anything but. It's been a strength, and they'll have some issues. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult from week to week. It's not a great football team. It's just the best of a bad lot.
Yep,
right
I can see the eyes rolling out there in listening land right now from the Cowboy and Giant fans, but quite frankly, you're right. I think it's the best of the bad lot here. All right, wild cards. Before, John, it looked like the East couldn't get a wild card. You look around right now. I think I got Atlanta. I'm pretty sure you do as well.
Carolina, but I have Atlanta winning.
Right. The next team, everybody's there. I mean, Washington, Dallas, New York, Philadelphia.
Yeah,
there is. So you do have a shot as a wild card. It looks like a 9-7 team could be a wild card team. I don't even know. Right now, if you look at my paper, I got a blank. So I'm going to just go on the spot, and I'll take Seattle just because
of their history.
And I like Russell Wilson better than I like anybody else that's an available option at this point. You can make a case that the Giants, if I like the Eagles there, that the Giants could be a 9-7 or an 8-8 wild card team, or Minnesota, who I went with last week. I don't know why I switched off that after Seattle lost and the way they lost, but for some reason I'm going to give Seattle one more run.
Well, I went all the way back to week 1, and I brought the Minnesota Vikings back in Probably because they didn't play last week. It was a bye. So they stayed put. They're 2-2. I think they have a good enough defense to get to 9 wins, and that'll probably get you that last wild card spot in the NFC.
So there they are, who's in and who's out in the AFC. Patriots, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Denver, Pittsburgh, the Jets. We have a consensus on that. And in the NFC, I've got Seattle, Atlanta as the wild cards, Arizona, Carolina, Green Bay, and Philadelphia.
Yeah, we just flip-flopped the South in the NFC, where I have the Falcons winning it, Panthers as a wild card, and the Vikings, because of Mike Zimmer's defense, probably a slight edge over teams like Seattle and St. Louis. Seattle mainly because of the problems they have on their offensive line.
By the way, John, last week Philadelphia in the NFC. This just shows you what that win last week did for them. When you look at the playoff standings from top to bottom, last week Philadelphia was 15th in the NFC. With that win, they now moved up to 12th. But you look in front of them, you have literally Minnesota 2-2, Tampa Bay 2-3, Dallas 2-3, Washington 2-3, St. Louis 2-3, Seattle 2-3, Philadelphia 2-3, Chicago 2-3. So goes to show that everybody in the NFC is virtually alive for a wild card playoff spot right now.
Yeah, and it speaks to how bad the bottom level teams have been, at least in the conference. And one win, and Chip Kelly will argue, a couple field goals away from being 4-1. All of a sudden, there's a lot of hope in Philadelphia. It's all about expectations. If you thought they were going to be a Super Bowl team, you were wrong. But if you think they can be a playoff team, you're still in the hunt.